Welcome to the Man Cave Podcast with Dan Casper.
We kick off this hour, though, like we usually do every Friday morning, catching up with the good doctor himself, Mr. Austin Crowe, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, joining us. Good morning, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Nice and warm inside, but at some point I'm going to have to step out.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I just had to step out there a little bit ago, and holy moly, I feel like it's colder than it was at like 3:30 this morning. So,
yeah, it's bitter.
Yeah, no kidding. So, sounds like it's even going to be warmer in Colorado this weekend for that Packers and Broncos game. What was it, like 40s or 50s, I think I heard. So, for crying out loud, man.
Balmy.
Yeah, right? So, that's kind of where I want to lead off, talking with Josh Jacobs. So, he has missed practice these last couple days, dealing with a knee issue, and it stems, he said, from when he had that knee issue against the Giants, where he hit his knee on that turf, swelled up. He ended up not playing in the following game against the Vikings, and he said it kind of got stiff in that second half against the Bears. And maybe I'm kind of scarred on this, but when I hear knee swelling fluid, I hear David Bakhtiari and such and that, but I mean,
oh yeah.
In this case, is there any concern that it started to swell up again and he got stiff and he's missing practice, or is this kind of normal with? I think they're just calling it a contusion at this point.
Yeah, so there's a pretty big difference between a soft tissue contusion and a bony contusion. They really haven't said beyond that. They are calling it a knee contusion, so basically a bruise. If it involves actually the bone, so like a bone contusion, which certainly a direct blow against hard turf could do that. I mean, that's an injury that will absolutely can nag for a couple months, sometimes even. So I would say it's premature to be worried about articular injuries, which certainly always have to be worried about or always have to be concerned about. But in this setting, I think the odds are pretty low. I think this is more in line with a standard bony contusion. So I doubt it's just soft tissue, because if it was just a soft tissue contusion alone, it should have improved by now. So my guess is he has a bone bruise, whether it's, maybe in the patella, maybe in the front of the femur, somewhere in that area in all likelihood. And those can linger. And certainly we see people come into the clinic with effusions, meaning fluid on the knee, swelling, which at first is like very concerning. Like, all right, something, there's fluid in the knee. That means something happened. But sometimes it's just you really hit the bone hard and get a little bit of bleeding in the knee. And it can mimic a bad injury. And the symptoms can be pretty significant, where it's like the point where the athlete's not able to go. But usually they're able to kind of fight through it. So to see this kind of up and down, like it's bothering me, but I can play, it's not dangerous, they'll often be able to fight through this. So my prediction is he's not going to miss time per se, but they're going to probably do, quote, load management as they've been doing with him. And over the next handful of weeks, it should slowly get better and better.
So with something like that, I apologize, it's a dumb question, but can they like drain it, or is this is something different? Because, again, I'm going to the Bakhtiari example where they were like, how many liquids or ounces he would continually to drain from that knee. Is this something where they could drain that, or is it just straight up the muscle is kind of inflamed?
Yeah, so again, that goes back to like what's the actual injury. If it's bony, then the fluid's probably inside the knee. You can aspirate that. Yep, you can drain it. Often it will come back if there's persistent irritation in the knee, so it doesn't always do what you're looking forward to, is basically alleviating all of that fluid. If it's more in the soft tissues, then no. So, when we look at a knee, when they first come into clinic and you see a big puffy knee, that could either be fluid inside the knee or in the tissues. It's definitely worse if it's inside the joint, both as prognostic and for function of the knee. So if it is fluid in the knee, they would probably consider draining it, but my guess is they're just going to manage it with, compression, elevation, et cetera. And then frankly, time will be his best friend, no matter which version of the contusion it is. But if it isn't a fluid in the knee, they could consider draining it, but I would suspect they're not going to do that.
Gotcha. I know they're pretty quiet on this TJ Watt situation that I'm sure you kind of heard about the other day, but the Steelers came out with a statement yesterday saying TJ Watt was hospitalized Wednesday night, and the thing is that he's dealing with a lung issue, and apparently he was feeling discomfort while going through treatment. So they sent him to the hospital and such, and he ended up spending the night. Now, I haven't heard or seen anything else after that. But that's, going through treatment now a lung issue. What are maybe some potential things? Because I don't know if this would be accurate, but I immediately thought of remember Tyrod Taylor with the Chargers, and got that. And
yes.
that's where my mind went right away. I don't know, but I mean, kind of a weird situation, it sounds like.
Oh, it's super weird. Yeah. So, I mean, I definitely, I think it was a couple days ago when this first popped, and, or maybe was it yesterday or 2 days ago? Either way, I was looking at it, and you really can't find any information. It just says, quote, he was having treatment, and then he began having lung issues. I mean, usually you don't just like willy-nilly like, yeah, just spend the night in hospital. So something's going on. So it's really unclear. Now, yes. So Tyrod Taylor, going back to that, he had a rib fracture. The team physician injected it with numbing agent. So basically was putting lidocaine or Marcaine in there to numb it, and then accidentally punctured the lung. And so it collapses the lung. So it's called a pneumothorax. So is it possible? It is possible. I would imagine they would have disclosed that, but that certainly could be a reason to do it. But if they were doing it in the middle of the week, I mean, you wouldn't want to numb a rib in the middle of the week. You're not, if you were to do that, you do it like game time. You just kind of keep them out. And so I have no clue what it is. This is real. I'd love to see if any more information comes out on this, but so I was keeping my eyes on that, and it really did not disclose any more information. So, I mean, possibility includes like this is not necessarily related to the treatment, but maybe when he was receiving treatments when it became apparent. So maybe he took a hit and has a contusion to the lung. So just like you can have a contusion and then you get a contusion to your lung, that can affect your breathing and oxygenation. So it could be something like that. That usually comes from a really hard direct blow. It could be he maybe does have a cracked rib and has a pneumothorax, again, maybe related or not to the treatments. But those things, they probably would have been more descriptive, I guess. So I don't know. This one is definitely got me scratching my head, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, no kidding. And then staying with the Steelers, kind of another weird one was DK Metcalf. So I was reading a little bit about this. He ended up being removed from the team plane after their game, after saying he was dealing with some stomach issues or stomach pain. He ended up staying in the hospital and such. And I was reading Mike Tomlin's quotes saying he got hit in the abdomen or stomach in the game. I think they gave him some basic over-the-counter remedies in-game like Pepto or something like that, and it got progressively worse after the game. So, I mean, could that be just something simple as if he got hit in that stomach and that he was just maybe dealing with some bruising or such? Because it sounds like he's potentially still going to play this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's the word of the day, but it could be contusion, right? So you can, just like you can get a contusion in your lung or what, you can get them in any of your internal organs. So, I mean, common ones would be like liver, spleen. I mean, occasionally we'll see someone who takes a step beyond a contusion, goes to a laceration. So, when we think of the term laceration, we think like a cut, but you can basically get hit hard enough where you'll basically, your spleen will develop a cut in it. We call it a splenic laceration. Those can be real dangerous. I mean, theoretically even life-threatening, but there's more mild versions where it's just like you get hit hard enough where you have a contusion to an internal organ. I mean, you can get a little bit of bleeding inside. You can get certainly pain and discomfort. But my guess is it's along those lines, because if he had a legit like splenic laceration, he probably would have been hospitalized as well. So it probably is not to that extent. But my guess it was a smaller version of that, so like a contusion to one of his internal organs. And then just at that point, pain can get progressively worse. Limitability, but usually they bounce back pretty quickly unless it's a true laceration.
Staying with football, I got to get your thoughts on Justin Herbert, who played this past week, Monday night against the Eagles, and that was less than a week, I believe, or maybe right around a week after having surgery on his left hand for a broken hand. It's his non-throwing hand. Apparently, doctors inserted a plate and a screw to stabilize the break, but even though it was his non-throwing hand and such, how maybe dangerous was it for him to go out there and play? I mean, it looked like he took a couple hits on that broken hand too. I mean, was there a possibility that he could have made it worse by playing and taking some big hits with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm sure it sounds like they doubled up on the fixation. So a lot of times for those fractures, we can put basically an intramedullary screw, and then they probably laid a plate on top of it. So kind of double fix it, if you will, to try to maximize the stability. But at the end of the day, until the bone's healed, there's metal holding the bone together. So, I mean, bone certainly doesn't heal in a week. I can promise you that. I mean, it's going to take at least 4 to 6 weeks for there to be any real significant bony development. So for those first handful of weeks, if you took a hard enough hit, you could certainly bend the plate or break the plate or screw. Occasionally we will see that, in patients that have an injury after a previous surgery. But I think obviously they're very calculated with this, and being that it's his non-throwing hand, I'm sure they're feeling like the risk is relatively low. But yeah, it is certainly a possibility that something were to hit it or take a real hard load to it and bend the hardware. That would be a pretty big problem to deal with. But it would take a really hard hit, especially with the double fixation that they did. So I'm guessing it's relatively safe. And then of course there's also the incision, right? So that those to put the plate and screws in there, you have to open it up. So you want to make sure that wound heals correctly. And again, I'm sure they have suture and tape and probably some special dressings over the top to help protect it. But I think in the first week or two, you'd almost probably be more concerned about the incision than you would the actual hardware. But I think it's relatively safe. But I mean, they're only doing this in a setting like this where it's a pro athlete. I mean, if we have high school collegiate athletes, they're going to sit out for at least a couple weeks generally to allow it to heal. But this is their careers, and they're saying, hey, you know what, it's worth the risk. I'll get back out there. So there is risk with it, but I wouldn't call it high risk.
I got to go. I don't know if were you at the Vikings and Commanders game last weekend?
I was there, yep.
Well, I got to ask you a couple. I mean, Jaden Daniels, they said he re-aggravated his left elbow injury, came back in that, and then the Zach Ertz nasty knee injury from that one. I mean, that looked, I think they're just saying ACL, but that looked horrific too.
It did, yeah. So Jaden, he threw a pick. I think it was one of our safeties came up and hit him. I mean, it wasn't a dirty hit because he was in the play. I mean, he theoretically could have made a tackle, and he flew directly onto that elbow. So I'm guessing it was more of an aggravation. They showed the replay of it. He landed on it. That's usually not a mechanism to re-dislocate or sublux that elbow, but I promise you that elbow is still very tender and raw. So I'm sure he just aggravated the heck out of it. And so then they put in Mariota, and at that point the game was pretty much over anyway. When you look at the big picture, I don't think it'll be a big setback for him. I'm sure it's going to hurt more. But I highly doubt it actually damaged anything. I think it just probably irritated it. Now, Ertz, on the other hand, I mean, that hit, it's always challenging. You see a lot of people are calling it a dirty hit. And I mean, the safety looked like he was going about, mid-waist, and then Ertz jumped in the air, and then that hit became his thigh. Clearly that knee bent in a way it's not supposed to. I mean, immediately you saw what it did, and it was a pretty gruesome injury. To get away with just an isolated ACL, that is very fortunate, because often when the knee goes into that hyperextension, it'll swing one way or the other, and then whichever way it goes, you'll either damage the posterior corner or the MCL, and then it becomes a multi-ligament knee injury. But yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, you see for a split second that leg is bent about 20 degrees in the wrong way.
Yeah.
At this point, he's getting pretty long in the tooth. I mean, I don't know how many years he's been in the league, probably 12, 14, something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm too high, but he's definitely been in the league for. You get to the point where it's like, all right, is he going to be able to bounce back from a knee injury like that? I would say the answer is maybe. He may just say, you know what, I've had a really good career, I'm just going to hang it up, or he may fight through it. I don't know. I mean, if it's isolated ACL, we're able to get those athletes back at a high rate. But yeah, that's a tough one to see. I chalk it up to more of just like, wrong hit, wrong spot, wrong time, and it just was kind of fluke as far as that injury is concerned.
I know I'm keeping you a little long. I got two more guys here that I want to get your thoughts on, if you're good with that. And obviously, one of them, Daniel Jones, Achilles injury. We've talked a lot about that for a lot. Yeah, exactly. Last couple of years, but he was also dealing with on the other leg a fractured fibula. They kept calling it. I mean, was there? They can't be related, right? Like he wasn't overcompensating for that, and that what suffered the Achilles. I mean, was there anything?
I don't think so. I think those are two totally separate things. The injury part, like when you see his mechanism, I mean, generally they're always an eccentric load. Like you're planting the foot, and the base of the heel is going down, so you're stretching the Achilles, and at the same time you're trying to push off. So it's called an eccentric load. Very classic. He almost was just kind of like twisting. So I mean, there's obviously a load to it because that's how they do it. But it's a very weird. It really almost was like you could see it, the classic like pop, and then there it went. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting mechanism. I mean, it really has been a fire sale on Achilles injuries between the NBA, the NFL. I mean, it's been about 2 years where it just seems like once every other week you get someone who's popping an Achilles. So who knows why that is, but it does seem like there's a lot more. But with his, I would say it's unrelated to that fibula fracture. I think that's more just kind of a fluke.
And then a player that I think a lot of fans were wondering if he did, going back to Giannis, switching to the NBA here for the last one, and had a calf strain. And I mean, everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, he goes down on the floor, just kind of, running back." It's like flashbacks to Damian Lillard. Everybody was kind of putting those side by side, but they called it a calf strain, and I know he's been, dealing with a groin strain over there too. But I mean, how do you kind of like, because that's what everybody's gonna. You think of Kevin Durant, right? Calf strain, and look what happened. And some of these, even Damian Lillard and such. Is that the concern? Is that a potential concern with this calf strain, that it could, if they push it too much, it could lead to an Achilles injury?
I mean, theoretically, but there's not a huge link. I mean, I see a lot of Achilles ruptures, and I mean, very rarely is there a prodromal, meaning like symptoms before. Usually it's like I just was playing pickup basketball or whatever and popped, there it went. So, I mean, yes, that happened to Durant, but I think for the most part, I think that's atypical. And, on the MRI, I mean, they're going to be able to assess the Achilles. So if they note any signal, like, look, you have some bad Achilles tendonitis in addition to this, that would put them more at risk. But they certainly didn't comment on that. They're still expecting a relatively short time frame. So it obviously wasn't a major one. Certainly watching him go down, it was concerning, right? I mean, the way he just kind of went down to the ground and immediately grabbed the leg, and everyone's first thought is, oh no, right? But at the end of the day, it was more muscle tenderness. So those are the ones that tend to do well. And again, should not be a long-term issue, but I guess never say never, but I wouldn't be too concerned about that, no.
All right. I know there's a lot going on right now, and that's why I think you always say, too, that's what keeps you in business, right? So with some of these.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. People are out there pushing their bodies to the limit, and it's just kind of part of the game, and it's unfortunate. The good news is, I mean, we're able to often get people back. So, I mean, out of all the interviews we talked today, I think almost all of them people should be back going full bore, in the end. So it's pretty amazing what we're able to do to get people back out there living their lives in sports, et cetera. But it is absolutely part of the game.
Absolutely. Well, hey, we appreciate you taking some time here this morning and breaking it all down for us. Enjoy your weekend, bud, and we'll catch up with you again soon, okay?
Yeah, stay warm out there, everybody.
Yeah, you too, man. There you go, Dr. Austin Crowe, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, joining us here this morning.